Hello, welcome to the talk, How to Think About Economic Development. I'm André Mendes, I'm a journalist at the Portuguese newspaper Jornal Económico, and we're going to discuss economic issues regarding women in this time of crisis. A United Nations report released in September shows us that due to the pandemic, 96 million people will be pushed to extreme poverty by 2021. 47 million of them are women and girls. This means that by the end of next year, there will be 435 million women and girls all over the world that will be living with less than $2 per day. We're going to have in this talk Sophie Leray. She's an entrepreneur, author, and she joins us from Cannes in France. She's also the founder of the World Economic Forum, the first platform for business women leaders in the Middle East and Asia. We also will talk, I think, with Sangeeta Ahir. She's a philanthropist, social entrepreneur. She's also a Bollywood producer. She's joining us live from India, but there were some technical issues, and we hope to talk with them. First, we'll talk with Sophie Leray. She's live from Cannes. Hello, Sophie. Welcome.
Hello, André. Thank you very much for inviting me for this great conversation.
Yes, Sophie, we have a small introduction from you. Can you please
yes.
Show us your presentation, please?
Yes, with pleasure. So thank you very much for inviting me. I hope we're going to see a few colored slides that should be, yes, appearing on the screen right now. Well, I'd like to take a few minutes to discuss a subject that is really dear to me. And it's the link, like you said, between women economic empowerment with the betterment of our societies. So allow me to make some preliminary remarks before we really delve into the conversation later on. And it starts with poverty. It starts with the fact that we cannot end world poverty unless we reach gender equality. And that's not me saying it, it's now being proven and researched time and time again. Poverty discriminates women more than anybody else. Child marriage, human trafficking, unpaid labor, gender-based violence, the lack of education merely. It's been proven that children that are more likely to suffer from malnutrition around the world have moms that did not receive any education. And there's an absolute correlation between the two. Women suffer from discriminatory work conditions, and this is all over the world. It's not just in some countries. Inheritance laws are sometimes discriminatory in certain parts of the world. Dress codes, lack of access to education. When women are educated, even slightly, they're likely to contribute directly to the labor market. They're likely to contribute to have less children, marry later, enable education and healthcare for their own children. They contribute to their community in a way broader sense. They create jobs for men. We've seen as well a correlation between humanitarian aid, microcredits being much more effective when it's given to women. They prioritize, and that's probably the most interesting, they prioritize their spending on the welfare of their children, therefore on building the conditions for empowerment for the next generation. When they vote, and that's an interesting part as well, is that there's an increase right away in education and healthcare spending. There's less corruption, and there's systematically a lower income inequality. And finally, recently, it's been researched that in rural areas, when women are given land to farm, natural resources are usually better managed. So there's a report that has been done before actually COVID-19 hit from McKinsey that was calculating roughly closing the gender gap could add about $28 trillion to the world GDP by 2025. Who wouldn't want that, right? The figures were released before COVID, so it will be very interesting to see later on what's gonna happen. But the gender pay gap now, as of today, very world from 35% in Korea to 15% in Asia. And I looked at Portugal, which was quite interesting. Portugal is actually very low compared to the rest of Europe. It's only 8.5%. But women are making 30% of the senior management. There are only 5 female CEOs in the Fortune 500 list. There's less women CEOs in that 500 Fortune list than men named John, which is just ridiculous. So according to World Economic Forum, it will take another 99 years to close the gender gap. And again, this is before COVID-19, before what you just said in your introduction, which is extremely concerning. So post-COVID, women are at an even greater risk to miss out everywhere in the world and in all socioeconomic groups. Again, all socioeconomic groups are suffering because they are the first caregivers. They are often in much more precarious work conditions. They're more likely to have part-time jobs. In senior positions as well, they are 1.5 more likely to prioritize their family commitments over their job. So during a crisis like this, it's very likely that they will be the ones taking care of the rest of the family. So we're at a massive risk of seeing women falling off the workplace and being laid off. And it has, as we saw, an impact not just on the world's economy, but on the way businesses are run, the way businesses innovate, the way businesses grow, the way societies grow. So it's very concerning. And why is that? Well, the patriarchal heritage all over the world has shaped our society in such a way that all aspects of society are touched: political, the workplace, sometimes religious framework, and the legal framework as well, like we said earlier on, inheritance and human rights. But there's something more simple to change. It's the workplace. You don't change a whole cultural heritage overnight, and it's understandable. However, you can change the workplace much faster than what we want to believe. And right now, the workplace is not really designed for effectiveness. It's designed for presence. It's designed for, a certain number of hours that you spend in the day. And of course, women are more likely to suffer from that because they juggle in between different aspects of their life. So post-COVID, there's actually a great opportunity, and I want to be positive here, to rethink the way the workplace is being done and is being seen. And reaching gender equity is, in our opinion, a business imperative. It's not just the nice thing to do. It's really a strategic decision that has to be led by the top management, because they understand how beneficial it is for a business bottom line, but it's also beneficial for employee engagement. It's beneficial for the governance of the company. It's beneficial to the capacity to the company to innovate and grow and tackle the world challenges. So it's extremely important, and I encourage women to do so, that they engage into this conversation with men in the workplace, because, like we know, men are the decision makers. So if these conversation of gender equality remains in between women, it's not going anywhere, and it's not moving forward. So I wanted to give you just a little nudge on something that we have started following the World Economic Forum. We wanted to have a very practical and impactful action over the workplace. And following the great quote of Peter Drucker, who says what gets measured gets managed, we started a not-for-profit organization called Eve List, and you see I have a T-shirt from this organization. And the idea is to really measure the state of gender equity in the workplace, and to do it very practically with a score, a score index of companies all over the world that will allow anybody and everybody to see at which state the company is when it comes to gender equality. We also provide daily job opportunities available in these companies, right now about 700 a week, and it's going to grow, and a place to really act as a community for professional women, but also for their male allies. And I want to emphasize on that, because this is a conversation about equality. It's not a conversation just about women. For entrepreneurs, for corporate women, to really mentor one another, to share, to grow their career through kids, through through peer-to-peer mentoring, through retreats. So a lot of activities that we're going to launch throughout the year. But first things first, measuring gender equity in the workplace. So if you want to add your company to the list, it's absolutely free. Please contact us, and I put our website on my presentation, so you know more about it. Thank you.
Sophie, thank you. I'll start with the question regarding the pandemic and the workplace. Did you notice a rise in cases regarding discrimination in the workplace, and also not directly being discrimination, but the pressure put on women because of they have to work from home, the kids are around, you have to homeschool them. What's your take on this?
Well, obviously, it's tremendous pressure. It's been researched and surveyed throughout the first lockdown period that pretty much taking a third more of the workload in the house than men. So you can imagine how much pressure that is. And I'm not talking about just the mental, what we call the mental burden. And I'm talking about very practical, like doing the dishes and things like that, and homeschooling and so on and so forth. It's a problem. It's a massive problem when it's a very senior woman as well, because there's just not enough time to handle all of it. But I want to be positive. It is also a time where companies had to rethink everything. They had to think in terms of task as opposed in terms of output as in terms of input. So that's why I was saying rethinking the way work will happen. And in this condition, women have done much better than men. Because they are used to juggle, they are used to do output versus input. So they're used to finish, all the tasks that they are being given. So it's, in my opinion, that's purely opinion, it's not surveying. I think we will come out of it with a great business case for women in the workplace. And this whole, concept of when you're a woman being concerned about the fact that she's going to have many other, tasks to operate but her job, and therefore we tend to employ a man instead of a woman, is going to be a conversation of the future, of the past.
Do you fear that also due to the pandemic that governments and companies can delay or postpone gender equality measures with the excuse, oh no, not now, not this year, because we have this and this and this because of the pandemic, and the gender equality issues can stay aside for quite a while? Is this a worry for you?
Well, yeah, obviously there's a few, how do you say, there's a few fires right now to kind of puff, right? So governments have a lot to do. And yes, it's the first thing that can be thought, and for corporations as well, is, okay, we'll put the gender equality to the side. And this is why I was saying in my presentation that it is not a nice thing to do. It's actually very smart. It's a smart business move. If it's understood that way, companies that understand how much they can benefit from diversity, but also from the inclusion of their diversity, and it's not just gender; it's much broader than that. But let's just right now camp on the gender aspect. They realize that it's part of changing and transforming the workplace is going to have a massive impact economically on not only just on the bottom line, but on the overall governance of the organization and, of course, of a nation when it's in terms of government. So our role is to make that business case and keep repeating that business case over and over and researching and proving it. And that's why Eve Lists really looked at measuring and facts and figures, because with facts you equip yourself for a business case, right? You are proving, you're demonstrating what it brings to the organization, and then there's no more conversation about it. But all this is great as long as it's led by the top. If gender equality remains an HR, and I'm sorry, but that's what it's been for a long time, or a CSR impact-driven initiative, yes, it's going to be completely tossed on the side. If it's a business imperative, if it's a national imperative, an imperative, then it will be used as a tool for progress.
Sophie, thank you so much. We have to wrap up. Thanks you for being with us and for your insights. Bye-bye.